Okay, hi everyone. I'm here today with our very first guest on State of the Arts, Department Chair of the Boston College Theater Department, Luke Jorgensen. Hi Luke, thank you so much for being our very first guest.
I am tremendously honored to be the first podcast guest.
I'm so glad.
Very exciting.
I'm so glad. Well, as a theater major, I know you pretty well, but for the people who don't know you, if you could give a quick intro.
So my name is Luke Jorgensen. I'm the chair of the theater department. I've been at BC about 26 years, and I went here as an undergraduate.
Okay, cool. And are you working on any fun projects this year?
Yeah, so we have a great season this year. I am directing a show called The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, which is based on a novel by the same name, and it is the story of a neurodivergent young person. It's a male in the book, but female in our production, whose family has kind of really counted her out as not being very capable, and she sets off to solve the mystery of who killed a dog, and through that adventure realizes a lot of things, including that she's much more capable than she ever thought she could be. So it's really, really interesting and fun, and it uses, there's a company that I studied with this summer called the Frantic Assembly, and they're in London, and they do a tremendous amount of like really physical theater, as you know, with like lifts and big group scenes where people are running around, and so it's been really exciting to be blocking all of those and creating all of those different moments every night.
Oh, that's cool. So how far along in the process are you?
At the end of this week, so I guess we're almost halfway through at this point. So we've been at it for 3 weeks, and so we've got another couple of weeks of rehearsal, and then tech, and then the show opens October 19th.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm curious, since you've been professor here so long, directed so many shows, are there any shows that have particularly struck you that should be, you know what I mean, should be talked about, state of the arts, everything like that? Is there a show you think about a lot?
I think there are a couple shows that I think about a lot. Of course, Lucy was one of the leads in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And that was exciting for me for a couple of different reasons. One, I have a lot of experience in children's theater as well as making theater for adults. And it was a great way to invite kids in the community to come see a show on a topic that was really family friendly. Not everything that we produce is family friendly. We had a puppet master on that show, as you remember, so we had members of the theater department learning to use different types of puppets, from the beavers to the about 16-foot tall Aslan lion puppet run by a bunch of different people. So that was exciting. We also had a couple of dance groups involved. Sexual Chocolate was involved, and Masti was involved, and so that was really exciting to have those people in on the show as well. So it was big, and it was huge, and it was crazy, and it was exciting, and that was great. And I'm really enjoying Curious Incident because I like to do things that aren't the same thing that I've done before. So for Curious Incident, having to use all new skills, a show called Noises Off, because it's technically such a difficult show to pull off.
Yeah.
And Midsummer Night's Dream. They're all good. They're all great in their own different way.
Good. Also for the listeners,
of course, Dreadful, which you were also
this is true.
one of the leads in, another one that I wrote, so that was exciting as well, because it was my first time doing horror. And that was pretty
fun.
Good. Lucy was a vampire by the end.
I was a vampire by the end.
It was a pretty big deal.
I wish everyone could have gone to see him.
Yeah.
But for anyone listening and is hearing background noise, it's because we're in the green room.
We are.
Which is a place in the Rob Sham Theater where a lot of us hang out. And just curious about the student body. What do you think is unique to BC theater students?
Great question. I think for our students here at BC, what's so exciting about them is they do all sorts of different things in theater. So the commonality between all of you guys seems to be that you love theater and you love the arts and you love performing, but that we've got people from CSOM, and we've got people from Lynch, and everybody works together to create lots and lots of different pieces of art. So I think we've got a lot of hardworking, overachiever, creative types down here. And yeah, the green room is probably one of the busiest rooms on campus.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Redirecting from shows
towards
you.
Yes.
I know you've done a lot of acting gigs this summer and cool things.
Yeah.
If you want to speak to that.
Well, very briefly, I think that part of the thing of having, so my youngest is a sophomore here, and I always believe that you've got to stay like mentally stimulated, so I decided to get back into acting a little bit. So this past summer I did a number of different short films. So in a Batgirl movie, I play the evil Scarecrow. So there was a lot of stage combat involved. So we trained, and I ended up getting Batgirl punches me quite a few times, and I spit up teeth. So be on the lookout for that.
Wow. Okay.
And then I also am filming something about the history of the mill girls in Lowell and their mistreatment, and it's a short film that's essentially about the first female reporter who covered all of that story. And I'm not evil in this one. I get to play her caring editor.
Oh, good.
And then last but not least, an interesting one was I'm in a series of videos that is going to help trained therapists learn how to deal with different patients. So I'm playing a different patient twice. So I'm a gentleman with some anger issues.
Sure.
For one of them. And one of the things that I was going to go in to do, they changed at the last minute and said, okay, we want you to play a guy about your age who has a fear of flying. And I know it's going to be hard for you. And I was like, oh, actually something I've struggled with for a long time. So great, let's just make that one happen. So that was a lot of fun as well.
Oh, okay, cool. So as you mentioned, you did theater here at Boston College when you studied, and so acting, etc. But what really drew you into theater? Like, why did you pursue?
So I was a theater kid, absolutely. So my parents met doing theater, and my dad was a professor at Stonehill College, first in the Midwest, but that's what brought us to Massachusetts. And so I grew up. I think the first play I was ever in, I was in Fiddler on the Roof when I was an infant. And I was just my dad was like, have a baby? Great. Let's, put him in the show as an extra. Right. And so I grew up in that world and did a lot of, children's theater growing up in Brockton, Massachusetts. And then in college, I did a ton of theater, but I was convincing myself the whole time, which is kind of interesting, that maybe it wouldn't be theater, maybe it would be journalism.
Sure.
And then I finally submitted to realizing that it's the thing that I like to do more than anything else. So so that's kind of what drew me in, was in a sense growing up in a theater house and always doing it.
I love that. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And you have been acting a long time as well.
This is true.
That's right. I recall when you were you 8 years old when I first directed you?
I was. I think maybe 10.
Maybe 10.
But my very first show ever was in 6th grade, Charlie and the Chalk Factory. I was an Oompa Loompa.
I remember.
Directed by, we called him Dr. J, Dr. Luke Jorgensen.
Yeah.
Do you remember first impressions of my audition?
Staggering talent. I mean, I think
you.
Like everyone else in the cafetorium, no, it was a theater. I think everybody was overwhelmed by. They were like, "Who is that Oompa Loompa, and when will the spinoff be?" Just about.
For me.
Yeah. About,
thank you. I remember I had they drew blue circles on my face for my. It was
brilliant.
A peak in my career.
Yeah, I tried coaching my kids in sports when they were little, and I was miserable at it. So instead, when there were a couple of moments where they didn't have a drama teacher or someone to do the junior high school show, I was like, oh, okay.
Real.
Yeah.
That was good.
Because I stink at soccer, so I'll do the other thing.
Oh, that's theater. Theater's great.
So far, so good. I've got a good run.
There you go. But yeah, I think a big thing that I really want to bring to this podcast is talking about, arts on campus, right? And what's important and what needs to be talked about. So, big $1,000 million question. What needs to be talked about on campus? How can arts not only change campus, but how can arts, what's important about it?
I think there's a lot of that you just opened a huge thing there. Like what's going on with arts in general at BC? I think we always need more space. I think the theater department is getting a lot of support from our dean, and we are left to make our own decisions. I've never faced censorship. I think that's really important. Right. But I think what the second part of your question was about is how can the arts raise the voice for an issue on campus? Is that something that you were bringing up as well? And I think both of our Main stage shows this semester do that. So Curious Incident, which I already talked about, starting to bring up the idea of the neurodiverse among us. And
Yes.
we're having a speaker come in on October 4th, Mickey Rao, who is a autistic and legally blind actor who wrote a book about his experiences overcoming that. And as you may not know, Lucy is the assistant director of the musical Rent, which is
Right.
also happening this semester. And Larry Souza, the director, approached us. He's worked at BC before as a choreographer. He's an excellent director. And I think his point was really well taken, that right now in this country there is a tremendous attack on the LGBTQ plus community, trans rights, and I mean, if you think that cross-dressing performance is illegal in some states now, and this is new, and this is 2023, so this not old, but this older musical, I think, has suddenly, which is sad, this new relevance of looking at this struggle for these central characters within the play. And Rent has not only a fantastic team of people working behind the scenes on the show, a fantastic cast, some of whom are incredibly talented freshmen who have come in, and we've partnered with the Thea Bowman Ahana Center and Ira Kirshner, who is our first full-time staff member at Boston College, just hired this year to help the LGBTQ plus community. So he's going to be leading a discussion after the Sunday show of Rent.
Oh, wow.
We're starting to talk about getting pieces of something called the AIDS quilt in the lobby of Rob Sham Theater for the show. So for me, I think that's exciting when the arts can be at the center point of a conversation for all of our students thinking about something.
Yeah, well, thank you for plugging that. I am assistant directing Rent.
You are, which is interesting because didn't you just get back from some time abroad?
Crazy that you mentioned that. So a running joke between me and Luke is that I mentioned, one, I went abroad in London, and then two, I live in Ahmad.
So you might not know that.
You might not know this.
It's
I
big
went
news.
abroad
Yes.
and I live in Ahmad.
Yes.
I did go abroad. I studied theater there. It was really cool. Lots of
That's
Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Lots of British accents.
Yeah.
I still don't have it down.
Yeah, well, you are to me a model of one of the people who has taken the most personal control of your college experience. So from
Thank you.
playing leads, from advocating for the arts, for this this continued and reinvigoration of yourself as an online persona for the arts.
I'm pushing it
Thumbs
in
up.
people's faces.
You're a person for others.
I am a person for others.
Yeah.
This is true.
That's true.
Well, just to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're
if you want
welcome.
to plug in, when's Curious Incident?
Curious Incident is October 19th, 20th, 21st-ish, and Rent is November about the
16, 17, 18.
Yeah, and tickets for both are now on sale at the box office.
So the camera just died. But, as Luke and I were saying, Curious Incident, Of the Dog in the Nighttime, and Rent are both on sale now at the box office, so make sure to go check that out. And thank you so much for listening to our very first episode of State of the Arts, and we'll see you next time. Mwah.